So I guess let's get started. Hello, everybody. This is The Importance of Being Worrell, a Jim Varney Memorial podcast. I'm Yosef Schwem. With me today, my co-host is Ed Atlin, famous on the internet for doing all kinds of stuff, including a million podcasts about TV shows. Hello.
Hello.
Hey. So what this podcast is basically is we're going to watch the Ernest movies, all of the Ernest Goes to, and of course there's Ernest Scared Stupid and Slam Dunk Ernest. There's a lot of different variations on the theme, but most of them are Ernest Goes to in that genre. And we're going to discuss them. I personally have a lot of affection for the Ernest movies because I used to watch them all the time when I was a kid, and I still love them. Ed, why don't you talk a little bit about what your background is with the Ernest character?
Well, I had no background with Ernest. I hadn't seen any of these movies until the one that I just watched today to do this podcast. I'd heard of Ernest before, but mostly as just a reference in The Simpsons and stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just never seen one of these movies before.
Famously, Ernest was or Jim Varney, rather, the actor who plays Ernest, was in The Simpsons in an episode where he played a carny.
That's right.
It's a decent episode, and maybe if this podcast keeps going all the way to the end, we'll watch that episode.
Oh, I can't wait.
Sort of cap it off. And we'll also watch all the Toy Story movies.
Well, the first two, yeah.
Yeah. Where he plays Slinky Dog, a pivotal character that just sort of disappears.
Then they had to kill him off in the third one.
Yeah.
It was sad.
Yeah, that scene where he's the only one that falls into the melting pit.
Hung himself with his own Slinky.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's why people cry at those movies, right? Because it can't be...
yeah.
Yeah, it can't be nostalgia or anything, right? So... Speaking of nostalgia, today we watched Ernest Goes to Camp. It's not the first appearance of the Ernest character. Actually, Ernest was originally created for commercials. It's a very strange origin for a franchise that lasted, I think, 10 movies. Am I right about that? I don't...
Yeah, I mean, you would know more than me. I think I saw one of these commercials where he's talking to Vern, right? That was his whole thing. He's always like, hey, Vern, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, the Vern character is essential to all of the Ernest movies, and one thing we'll be looking out for is appearances by Vern in the series.
Was there a reference to Vern in Ernest Goes to Camp?
There was.
Okay, I must have missed it.
I'm going to get to it later on. It's a very small reference.
Gotcha.
It's pretty nice, but it's there. It's like a little nod. I'm looking at the list right now, and 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we were close. There are 9 Ernest movies, actual Ernest Goes to, but there's also all the commercials that he did. He did a commercial for butter. It was just this weird thing where I don't think that happens a lot, where there's a character who is just for commercials,
right,
but advertises different products. It's a really weird. It is a weird history. I think he did a car commercial, not a car commercial, but for a dealer. So yeah, it's a strange origin story for a character who is supposed to be,
So on Wikipedia, before Ernest Goes to Camp, there's something called Hey Vern, win $10,000. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't know what that is. Does it have a link?
It says video in parentheses, but it doesn't. And there's also the Ernest Film Festival in 1986, which is also video, not a movie. But
19 what?
86.
So before there were any actual Ernest movies.
Yeah, before Ernest Goes to Camp.
That's fantastic.
The win $10,000 thing. It says it's 55 minutes according to IMDb. It's just a picture of Ernest with money floating around him on the cover.
Oh, man.
I don't know if it's just him on a game show or what.
Yeah, so somehow this character went on to spawn a franchise of 9 movies.
Wow.
I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe has finally eclipsed the Ernest verse.
Took him a while.
But took them a while. That was the landmark that Disney was going for. They're like, if we can beat the Ernest movies, we'll know we're established, and of course the DC cinematic universe has not come anywhere near as close.
Not even close.
Nor in terms of like actual quality or anything. Whereas I think the Marvel movies approach Ernest levels.
What is the equivalent of Ernest Goes to Camp to, like, which Marvel movie is the equivalent to this movie? Would you say?
I'd say Iron Man. Yeah.
I guess because it's the first one that kicks it off.
It's the first one, but it's also was Iron Man really the first? Yeah, I guess it was. But it's like the only reason that the franchise exists, right? Like they cast
Robert Downey,
such a charismatic actor to play the character, and then that was able to like launch 1,000 ships. That'll be a fun recurring segment. Which Marvel Cinematic Universe movie does this represent? And of course, all those commercials will represent like the X-Men movies, which aren't part of the same canon.
They're the Sony produced Marvel movies.
So the Ernest Goes to Camp. Like, we're gonna go through the plot of this movie in a minute. I was surprised by how racist it was. That's one thing.
Is it?
And also,
can I ask? Is it the most racist Ernest movie? Because just looking at the titles, I have a feeling one of them.
There is a film called Ernest Goes to Africa that we will be getting to eventually. But all in good time. Also, I believe Ernest Goes to Ernest in the Army originally was titled Ernest in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
At some point, he plays an Arab.
One of his three characters is named Arab on Quicksand.
The Arab. Yeah. So, I don't know. Ernest does blackface. I don't know. It's sort of the kind of racism, like the Native American racism that is for some reason, like, weirdly acceptable in movies. Because it's just like, I guess because there's so few Native Americans? Is that maybe the reason why? Like, there's still a sports team called the Redskins, somehow? Yeah. They haven't said, you know what, fine, we should probably stop doing that. Nobody's been able to, like...
It's a part of history, man.
It's a part of our
you
culture.
You can't change
Stop
that.
Stop oppressing our culture! So, yeah, that was... there's some... I don't like to use the term problematic things in this movie, but on the whole, it's not super malevolently racist anyways.
It could have been worse, right?
Yeah, it definitely... Oh, yeah, we've seen movies that are much worse, much more racist. What was the most racist movie we've seen together?
That we've seen? Was it... What's that one Quartermain guy? When he goes... Doesn't he go to Africa or something?
Yeah, Alan Quartermain... something in the Tomb of Solomon or something. That one was pretty racist.
Yep. The big cannibalistic tribe in that movie.
It's somehow more racist than Temple of Doom.
Right.
Like they were like, let's make this movie more racist. Okay, so the movie starts and we're in ancient times and we're with a Native American tribe doing some kind of ceremony, and they have this symbol that reoccurs that's like a asterisk, basically. It's
did it remind you of Community, the Greendale symbol?
Oh yeah, like the anus symbol.
Yeah.
Well, what it reminded me of is it's like a Norse symbol, I think. Like it's a cross. It's like an X with a line straight through it, so it's got 6 lines.
It's missing one line to make it a full asterisk.
Okay, yeah. So there's like a weird ceremony where they throw a hatchet and an arrow. And
a stone, I think, because it was the test of the blade, the stone, and the arrow.
Yeah, that's right. That comes up. So it's this weird Native American ceremony thing. Except like they're mixing and matching different like tribal societies, like just putting everything together. Like I said, the symbol looks like something Norse, and they're wearing like African face masks. One guy's got, like, a full bird just hanging off of his ass. Like, the spread wings of a bird are just hanging off his ass. And this scene opens our movie, and it's super relevant to what happens
Yeah,
in the movie.
It was just so weird. I was not expecting this to be the opening to the Ernest universe, you know?
Yeah.
You had to know this history.
It's essential.
It kind of ties into the end of the movie, though, right?
Yeah, in a great way.
Yeah. That totally makes sense.
Yeah. So it's supposed to set up, this is like a test that the young braves go through, where they get shit thrown at their faces, and if they survive, then they're men.
Yeah, if the guy misses, then they're bad. Yeah.
If the guys are really shitty at throwing stuff.
It doesn't just mean that he has bad aim, you know, it means you're worthy of being in the tribe or whatever.
Yeah, you should get that guy's manhood. Like, you should become that guy's spot in the tribe, because he is obviously not good at... He's like 20 feet away, he can't hit you with a fucking arrow. You should probably not be shooting arrows. So the movie then starts proper with Jim Varney playing the great role of Ernest Warhol, or Worrell, sorry.
Warhol?
I say Warhol. Because I think of his cousin, Andy Warhol.
Oh, of course.
The great artist. And he's a, like, janitor or something? He's like a general fix-it guy at a camp called Camp KKK.
Yep. He wants to be a counselor. That's like that's what he tells.
That is his motivation.
When he talks to the camera, he's telling us one day he's going to be a counselor. One
day, I'm going to be one of those guys with the special shirts.
Yeah.
It's so different from my current role. So he that's his motivation. That's the thing that's going to drive him in this movie, is his desire to be a counselor and shape young minds as a counselor at this little camp. And we get introduced to him and like what his deal is, and his deal is he's an idiot who is very bad at doing anything, even just really simple tasks. Like he emphasizes the importance of safety, and he doesn't tie himself off. He just like ties a rope around his waist and just throws it over the side of the sign. Then he obviously falls down because he's not capable of understanding basic things. This is a common theme in the Ernest movies.
He falls down a lot. He gets
he falls down a lot,
injured a lot, but then he recovers quickly.
Yeah, I have a theory about that.
Okay.
I think he might be immortal.
Oh shit.
Well, because here's...
Well, you know what? There's a lot of evidence supporting that in this movie.
Yes. There's a lot of scenes that show that he is quite a resilient man.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a weird racist camp. There's nothing but white people at this camp, but it's like owned by a Native American chief. Well, the land is owned by this Native American chief.
Yeah.
Although who can own a tree, he says.
Who can own a tree?
He doesn't speak English. He doesn't speak English, which I think is kind of odd, because he's a person living in America his whole life, presumably.
Is he deaf?
No, because he speaks. He speaks using his own tongue to his daughter.
But people only talk to him through sign language.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, but he doesn't use sign language himself. It's only other people communicating to him, but he always speaks in his native tongue.
Yeah, why doesn't his daughter ever speak in... His daughter's in this movie, too, and I think Ernest has a bit of a crush on her.
Yeah. She's
a doctor?
Yeah, the nurse, actually.
She's a nurse. I thought she was a doctor.
Yeah, I don't want to give her the credit of being
racist.
a doctor. Well,
they just assume...
They call her a nurse in the movie, that's how I know.
That's just them being racist. Just like, it's a native lady.
But when she talks to him, she speaks English, but uses the sign language, the Kikaki sign language.
The...
Kikaki.
The Bukkake sign language.
Yes, that's right.
Which only she and Ernest understand. This is an important plot point.
Yeah.
Somehow he learned this sign language, except he only knows how to communicate in this weird pigeon language, where he's talking to an adult human being living in the world today who speaks English, and he's like, the great sun will come over many times before...
And this becomes important later, the fact that he's the only other one who knows how to do this sign language.
Mm-hmm. So he's afraid of shots, which is strange given all of the things that he's able to physically endure. But she has to give him a shot. And so this is like our basic setup. There's this camp. It's a nice camp. It's for boys. It's filled with white people. Just absolutely everybody's white, except, well, there's the Indian nurse, the landowner, but he's not like the leader of the actual camp itself. That's a white guy. And once we get introduced to the delinquent boys, there are two non-white characters there. Now, it seems like I'm focusing on this too much. It does become kind of relevant later on. So, what it turns out that the camp leader, whatever you call him, the guy who's in charge of the camp, he's got this program going on with the local whatever you call it, delinquent center.
It's the second chance program is what they call it.
The second chance program is what it's called.
Yeah, they got these juvenile delinquents coming to the camp.
The worst of the worst.
Yeah.
They're the worst of the worst, they say.
They carry switchblades. They're constantly popping the blade out of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're hard boys.
Yeah, they wear sunglasses,
also, like,
you know.
At the oldest, they're like 13. And like the youngest looks like he's 8, maybe. So, yeah, super dangerous kids. But
yeah,
for some reason they send Ernest to go pick him up, even though it seems like they could send anybody to do it. And they know that he's an inept person.
That's Ernest work. Make him do it.
Yeah, I mean, we had a bus driver earlier who drove the other buses, but we'll send this guy.
We don't want to pay him anymore.
They send him to pick up these guys, and the lady at the delinquent center says right in front of these kids are worthless. Don't bother. They're horrible. And Ernest's like, oh, I think I can help them, shape up. And you're introduced to these delinquent kids, and first of all, there's apparently no dress code at this fucking juvenile delinquent center because they're all wearing like suit jackets, but like different styles. It's not like a uniform. They're all wearing, for some reason, suit jackets and like vests and stuff. Yeah,
one's wearing like one of those shirts with like the midriff cut out or whatever.
Oh, that comes up. They change their outfits throughout the movie, and the delinquent kids frequently go in midriff revealing t-shirts for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like, that was the fashion, I guess,
it was
in the 80s.
The 80s, yeah.
A lot of kid bellies in this movie. So he takes them back. He takes these awful delinquent kids back to the camp, and they promptly attempt to kill everybody on the bus by putting their hands over Ernest's eyes while he's driving. And Ernest, instead of like an adult would usually do, is like smack the hands away and say, hey, don't do that, that's dangerous. He just plays their game of Guess Who while driving a bus full of children down the road. And he nearly kills them several times. And the kids don't react by like going like, oh shit, we should probably stop playing this game because there's a truck coming at us.
They're the worst of the worst, these kids.
Yeah, they just say, turn left. Instead of going, oh shit, let's stop doing this. But he earns their respect by showing that he has no fear of death, and nearly getting them all killed. But then he lightly taps the back of another bus when he's pulling in because he's not even because they're covering his eyes anymore, just because he's like looking in the back, talking to them while he's driving.
Yeah.
So it's not, you can't really blame them for that one. That one's all on Ernest. And he delivers the kids. I'm trying to think of what happens next. Like, I know what happens in the movie, but I'm trying to think of the sequence.
I think shortly after the new kids get there, they're like swimming. And there's like the three like older, what are they, like teenage kind of counselor guys? They're like the Jimbo, Dolph, and Kearney counselors, these guys from The Simpsons, And one of them gets injured because like these delinquent kids push him off of the lifeguard thing.
Yeah, well, it's because before that there's a scene where like some regular kids from the camp, we'll call these the asshole kids, some non-delinquent kids, decide to pick a fight in the fucking cafeteria with the delinquent kids. And of course the delinquent kids get blamed for it, and they have to dig a fucking ditch.
They smash a tray into Ernest's face, and it does that cartoon thing.
That's that's part of one scene where Ernest defies death because he gets hit in the face first with a serving tray so hard that his face is imprinted through the tray, and then to save him, the boys take a cast iron pan and smash him out of the tray, and then he falls into a Coke machine, which then falls on top of him. That's like 3 things that would kill a normal human being, but he shows no sign of injuries in the next scene he's in.
He bounces back quickly.
I mean, he's an immortal.
I think you're onto something, yeah.
There's a lot of Coke product placement in this movie, I noticed. You see a lot of Coke cans, a lot of Coke machines in the background. It's a strange detail that this movie has.
The best drink when you want to crush a camp counselor.
We're solid. I guess, anyway. I was going to say something about the movie Silent Movie, starring Mel Brooks. There's a lot of Coke in that movie as well. That's what I was going to say.
Oh, okay. Also in Scarface, a lot of Coke in that movie.
That's clever. That's clever. I like that. So they go to the lake, and the other boys are teasing them and being dicks, and they get their revenge, the delinquent boys, by pushing the dick boys off the dock. And then one of the counselors, who's from the very beginning been against these delinquent boys, and he's the one who made them dig a ditch, says, says, y'all have to get in the water. Go get in the water. And then one of the boys, Moose, the only black student in this entire movie, the only black person in this entire movie, a young boy of maybe 8, is unable to swim, which is, isn't that a weird coincidence?
What?
That is the person.
You think just because he's black, he can't swim?
No, I mean, in the movie, he literally can't swim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you not aware? That's a stereotype.
Okay.
Were you not aware of
I guess I have heard that. Yeah, I guess I've heard that before, but I didn't even think of that when I was watching it, to be honest.
That was the first thing I thought. Like, I was just like, oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
Like, it just seems weirdly specific that is the one kid.
Yeah.
That they picked. The one black kid is also the one kid who can't swim. So then the camp counselor, like a giant dick, throws
him in there.
And the kid starts to drown, and Ernest saves his life with a pole. That's what Ernest does.
Yep.
And then the other boys, the other delinquent boys, decide to get revenge on the camp counselor, and they push him off the dock on his little lifeguard platform and break his leg. Somehow. That's pretty brutal.
I mean, if that was Ernest being pushed off of there, he would have been fine.
If that was Ernest, he would have literally just like stood on top of the water because he is some kind of god.
So the guy getting injured, that's how Ernest gets the job as a counselor.
Yeah. Because they're like, well, we're going to have to throw these kids out. And they're like, oh, I don't want to throw the kids out. They just like critically injured a counselor. So they get Ernest on the job because even though they all think he's worthless and incompetent, for some reason they think it's a good idea for him to be working with the most dangerous and unpredictable students in this camp. I don't know what their thought process is here. It seems like, because before, the reason they had that other guy leading them is because he said he's the best counselor. He's the most experienced one. So now they decide to go the opposite direction for some reason. But it's a good enough choice just because like Ernest is the only one who seems to like the kids at all.
Yeah.
But that's not brought up as a reason. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, there's this evil corporation. It's called Crater. Like
Crater.
Krader.
Was that name meant to be? Yeah, was that name meant to be like a pun? Like they're digging the crater in the ground?
I gotta think so, because that's the level this movie operates on.
So that they're mining for unobtainium or something, right?
They're mining for
some special
petrosite.
There's some special material underneath Camp Kikaki.
Petrosite, a mysterious substance that is valuable to the space program and defense contractors.
Yeah.
And underneath Camp KKK is the largest reserve of it in the world. That's what they've discovered from samples. And they say that it's worth $20 million in the first year. Now, I think that might be a little conservative, because it's valuable to the space program and defense contractors. It's essential to the space program, they say. And the largest cache of it in the world is underneath this camp, which suggests it's pretty rare. But for some reason, it's only worth $20 million in the first year. But the old Indian chief is the guy who owns the land. So they have to get it from him, and he doesn't want to sell it because he's an old Indian chief in a movie.
And who can own a tree?
And who can own a tree, he says.
Yeah.
Which the lawyer who goes to talk to him, who's not that bad a guy, it's revealed. He's just sort of a token.
Yeah, he was more on the grandpa Indian chief side.
Yeah. He finds this very profound. He repeats it to himself several times.
Who can own a tree?
Who can own a tree? I don't know. And they offer him like 5% on all the petricite. Like there's like, you'll have $500,000 a year, which is a lot of money, but it doesn't seem like it doesn't really seem like it's understandable, even if this guy wasn't like an Indian chief in a movie, why he wouldn't want to sell all this land for $50,000 a year. It's a lot of money, but it's not an astronomical amount of money to give up your ancestral land for strip mining. There's probably great, like, literal Indian graveyards on that site. It's probably not the most pleasant idea. Maybe that's what petricite is. Maybe it's like it's like how dinosaurs become oil. The Indians become
fossilized
petricite.
Indian burns.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so there's this evil company that wants to take all the petricite, the fake stuff.
The boss, the evil guy, he's like just chilling, hanging out with a sniper rifle, just shooting bottles. When the lawyer comes back to say that the old Indian won't sell.
Ernest takes the kids.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say they check back in with the evil guy throughout the movie until he makes his move later on.
Yeah, he seems to be very, very evil. He's very established. So Ernest takes the kids, the delinquent kids, through the woods to see real nature. He says he shows them a family of rabid, I think, raccoons. Was it raccoons? No, badgers. A family of badgers that he deliberately provokes for no reason other than to demonstrate why you shouldn't provoke badgers, and then is brutally ripped apart by them. And then the boys wrap him up in a bunch of gauze, which is not actual first aid, and he never receives any actual first aid for these badger wounds, which he should be getting like 18 shots from nurse lady.
Fortunately, he regenerates quickly.
Yeah, all those badger wounds just like heal up like Wolverine.
Right.
So he shows them real nature.
He may even have an adamantium skeleton. That's why the Coke machine had no effect.
When he falls off a ladder, he doesn't break any bones.
That's how the tray morphed into the shape of his adamantium skull when he was hit with it.
Okay, I'm gonna write this on my list of theories. Oh, I haven't mentioned the cooks yet. These cooks are in this. The cooks for the camp make disgusting food because it's camp, and that's the thing about camp.
They have some wacky food machine.
They develop a wacky food machine, as you describe it. What I would describe it is super science.
Right.
Because all they have to do is throw the ingredients to the dish into this machine, and it spits out the dish that you wanted to make. Like fettuccine alfredo, they throw raw, uncooked fettuccine and like a little doll of a man named Fredo.
Yeah.
Which is funny. And they throw it into the machine, and it spits out actual fettuccine alfredo. They want
they make chicken pot pie by throwing in a chicken, a pot, like a metal pot, and a pie.
And like a chocolate pie.
Yeah.
Now look, it's shown as this is a silly device because it's spraying this stuff all over and it's gross. But it's also a machine that can spontaneously generate cooked food in a split second just from the raw ingredients. If the delivery method was improved in some way, this would be the most revolutionary invention in the history of cookery. It's really undersold.
The Crater Corporation guy would like give up on mining and just steal this invention, sell that instead.
Yeah, and for some reason they don't when they see it later on in the movie.
Yeah.
They don't go, whoa, holy shit.
I gotta get me one of those.
This is the point in the movie when they're walking through the woods, by the way, when we find out that Ernest went to Vietnam. He talks about his experiences in Nam, which I think might be an explanation for why he's so skilled in guerrilla warfare later on in the film. He talks about his Vietnam experience.
Huh.
There's a lot of fun adventures with the the delinquent kids. At one point, he plays poker with them at night. He sees these kids and they're all playing poker, and he goes, "Oh, I'll play too. I've played poker my whole life. I'm very good at poker." And instead of being like what a actual camp counselor would probably be like, I can't have you kids gambling. Like, you can't have you kids gambling with real money. It turns out it's not like they're gambling with candy or anything. They're gambling with real sums of money. Ernest ends up $21,000 in debt to one of the criminal boys, one of the delinquent boys. So that's one scene. At one point, Ernest builds a dirty soup / hot dog rotisserie chicken machine. I don't know if you recall this machine.
Yeah.
It scoops up soup. It uses, I think, a lawnmower engine to scoop up soup, cook hot dogs and rotisserie chickens, and he wisely attaches the belt to this machine to his foot because...
Was he controlling the direction that it's rotating or something like that?
It was baffling. I watched this scene several times.
Somehow it makes less sense than the other wacky food machine in this movie. Like,
also, it's more disgusting. The other one sprayed food at you, but this one is obviously filthy. Like, it's made out of just like whatever he found. He didn't make any effort to clean it up. It's just dirty metal. These little dirty metal, like, I think it's like one of those machines you use to, like, dig trenches. Like, it's got little scoop handles to scoop up the soup, and they're filthy looking. And, like, just, like, jamming, like, sharp things of rebar through chickens that are... nothing is clean. It's cooking on a lawnmower engine. Anyways, he gets sucked into this machine and nearly murdered by it. And then he's set on fire by this machine he develops because it pulls him into the fire, and he is visibly on fire, and then he just walks into the lake and he's fine.
Well, you know those Home Alone with Blood videos? Do you think they could do one for the Ernest movies? It seems like there's a lot of potential there.
Well, I think the problem is that it would show so much of it is done in a bloodless way. Like, he's just smashed, like, off screen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you could do the bloody version of, like, having the food tray on his face. Because I guess you could just, like, edit the shape of the tray so that it's not a face outline, not showing his adamantium skull.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd show the aftermath of his face being messed up by this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could just edit the movie so that at the end of the movie, his face is all, like, looks like a boxer.
Yeah.
Who's been
like at the end of Rocky, how his fucking eyes
warped,
all smashed up and swollen. Like,
he's got cauliflower ear, and his cheeks are in different, like, axes.
So the kids build a teepee.
The kids. Okay, so there's a competition to see who's, like, the coolest, cabin in the camp, and Ernest convinced the kids that they should enter. And they find out that the dick kids, the kids who've been assholes to them the whole movie, are making an actual kayak. And it looks like a professional kayak. And their decision to beat them is to build a teepee. Now, maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but I think the kayak is a far more impressive demonstration of craft than a teepee
totally.
is. Because a teepee is 4 sticks, essentially, with some canvas wrapped around.
And you can only fit like
Whereas,
2 people in that teepee as well.
Yeah, they paint it up real nice. Okay, but the kayak, it's clear they've done they have genuine woodworking skills because they have the whole skeleton of the kayak and they're working on applying like the actual shell, and it's like they've done this. They've done the things where I don't know anything about woodworking, but where you actually like soften up the wood to make it pliable so that you can make it curved and stuff. Like it looks really impressive. Like if someone I knew did that, I would be quite impressed. And I am an adult man. These are teenage boys.
They put all the varnishing on there and the finishing and all that stuff.
Gym varnishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems odd that that's so impressive to them. And it also seems odd that then the dickhead boys, the non-delinquent
That's
boys,
funny. In my notes, I called them the Dickhead Brothers.
Oh. Well, here's a fun fact about the Dickhead Brothers. Did you notice how they have a fun, cool high five move where instead of actually high-fiving each other, they kick up their left heels and slap each other on the ass?
What? Okay, I missed this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool move they have.
That sounds real cool.
It looks to me like it was an accident. It looks to me like they meant to high five, and then they accidentally slapped each other's asses, and then they were like, just went with it and kicked up their heels.
That's a real, like, failure of a high five, if you're...
Yeah. Well, it's a low five. I think it was a low five. Failed low five.
So they burned down the teepee, the Dickhead Brothers do.
They burned down the teepee. They see this teepee and they're like, shit.
We gotta burn it.
Our working kayak will not be able to stand up against this amazing teepee. It's just such a dumb motivation. Also, these kids, they set a fire in the woods.
Yeah.
This is super dangerous. They're so much worse than the delinquent kids, and it's so weird. They're not just bullies; they are arsonists. The whole movie, I was waiting. I really wanted to see a scene where the delinquent kids get picked on by the bullies, and then they just pull out their switchblades and hold them to their throats, and they're just like,
yeah, the way, because they kept showing the switchblades throughout the movie, I was disappointed they never used them in the end, in the final battle that happens later in the movie.
Yeah, there's a final battle in this movie, by the way. We haven't gotten to it yet, but it's pretty impressive. But it's obviously this is a PG movie, but it does seem weird that these delinquent kids who carry switchblades are just taking all this shit from these white bread. That's what they call them when they come in. They're like, yeah, if white bread, what was the phrase? If white bread could go to camp, they would be happy.
I don't remember.
It's really awkward, but they're saying that everybody's white.
Is that so? After they burn the teepee, the delinquent kids go to beat up the other kids for revenge, right?
Yeah, and they get in trouble.
But Ernest, the counselor wants to kick them out, but he's like, fine, I'll give them one more chance.
Yeah, Ernest is like, it's probably my fault because I'm so, shitty and everything. Nobody mentions, hey, these other kids set fire to their teepee and burned it to the ground.
They're arsonists.
They're arsonists. Why is nobody mentioning the teepee thing? That's way worse than, starting a cute little PG movie kid fight that isn't, brutal at all. It's just pushing each other. That's not that terrifying. Let's see. At one point, Ernest is attacked by an army of fire ants. He goes into the nurse's office to be,
she puts cream on all of his fire ant bites.
Bites, yeah. Obviously, a cut scene that it explored sexual tension between those two characters.
Oh yeah, just imagine her smearing on that cream real slowly.
Yeah. Yeah, through his vest.
Yep.
He's bit on a nose by a turtle. The boys bring him poison ivy as a gift, as if it's a bouquet.
Yeah.
And he smells it.
They're like, smell this. Get this right up in your face.
And he's so impressed and he's so touched by the effort, but it's poison ivy doesn't look like flowers.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like, why, it's like they just picked up a bush and brought it over to him. And he's like, oh, let me rub my face all over this. Also, he's been working at a camp for how long? And he doesn't know what poison ivy looks like. I know he's an idiot, but it seems like that's something that you would pick up at some point. Maybe when he was in Vietnam, he could have picked up on, they got poison ivy in Nam, right?
Yeah, or maybe he knew it was poison ivy, but he also secretly knows that he has an immunity to it, so it's going to be okay.
Yeah, and she gave him a shot to stop the poison ivy.
Yeah.
I guess an epinephrine shot or something. I don't know.
Is that the one you jam into their heart? Or is that's adrenaline?
No, well, I think you can. Yeah. I think actually, no, it's the same thing, because doesn't epinephrine cause an adrenaline reaction? Usually when they inject adrenaline into you, they're actually injecting epinephrine to I could totally be wrong, and I'm going to cut all of this out so that nobody knows how stupid I am.
There's a deleted scene where the nurse draws an X on Ernest's chest so she can jam him right in the fucking tit with a needle.
Yeah. Well, she draws it on top of his vest, obviously.
Of course.
That vest never comes off. I mean, we're going to get to a movie where he plays basketball, and he's going to be wearing that vest over his basketball jersey, because that's just how he looks.
Yep.
There's all this, back and forth with these poor kids, and they're like, we're going to rebuild our teepee. That'll win for sure. As far as I know, that's never resolved. I don't think we ever see the result of a competition in this movie. I think other things take prominence. I don't think they ever judge the competition.
Yeah, because
I'm sure the kayak would win. Who's gonna?
Pretty soon after that is when the boss evil guy goes to the chief St. Cloud to get him to sign the lease, right? Yeah.
So the actual dickhead leader of the Crater Corporation, whose name is Crater, so it's named after him, shows up at Chief St. Cloud's little cabin. And he starts talking to him, and he never seems to get that this guy can't speak English. He's just having this one-way conversation, and then Ernest comes in, and he's like, oh, hey, Chief Cloud, and does all his sign language, demonstrates it. And then the CEO guy tricks Ernest into thinking that he's signing a what's the word?
Something, I forget what it is. He tricks...
A petition.
Yeah.
A petition.
So
a petition against building on this land.
Yeah.
And that he's against, the Crater Corporation. And somehow this would hold up in court. I don't know how this would ever hold. So you're going to get a guy who can't speak English to sign away his land rights by lying to him.
And they skip over the part where Ernest gets him to sign it too. So we don't hear how Ernest explains this to the chief. Because isn't the chief aware that they're trying to buy this land from him? Doesn't he know?
Yeah.
Even if he can't speak English?
He's talked to the lawyer before. So why wouldn't he be more suspicious? Also, of a document that clearly wouldn't be looking like a petition. A petition would be a long list of names, and not a bunch of legalese, okay? But, I guess that's why we don't get that scene, is because they're glossing over how it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
They want to move past it, and I'm fine with that. That's the thing that movies do. It is kind of baffling in a way that it just doesn't really make much sense. But he signs away the land, and then immediately the camp has to leave. Everybody at the camp has to leave the next day because they own the land. They're going to start building. Trucks are already arriving to knock down buildings. They got bulldozers. All these crewmen are like, we got to leave. Not ignoring the possibility that maybe Chief St. Cloud maybe made an agreement with this camp, because he doesn't own the camp. So he probably was renting the land to that camp. So he probably couldn't sell it, legally. You would have to sell it with the agreement, with getting the renters involved in some way. Ignoring that, all the stuff that is on the land probably belongs to the camp, that they're going to destroy. There's no... it doesn't make any sense. That's all I'm saying. It makes no sense whatsoever.
This is nearby. There's some family living there because the main henchman guy of Crater goes in and beats up the guy who's living there.
Yeah, somewhere near the camp, in land that's adjacent to the camp, they also got the rights to this family's home somehow. Maybe they were renters or something. And the guy's just the lawyer, who's a nice guy, it's presented, says can't we give them a little bit more time? And the Crater guy just calls him a pussy and then orders his big lunkhead guy.
I'm gonna go beat him up.
Go in, drag them out, and just drags them, beats the shit out of the father, drags the rest of them out of the place, and then they destroy the house. So that's cool.
Yep.
So they're bad guys.
And
introduced to this.
And Ernest ends up fighting that big guy as well, but the big guy just beats him up.
Ernest says, I'm going to get this, I'm going to save the camp. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start a fight with the biggest guy they got there.
Yep.
I'm going to make them go away. Because that's how anything in the world works. You go up and find the biggest guy and you beat him up, and it doesn't matter that they own the rights to the land, they'll leave. That's also relevant to what happens at the end. That also doesn't make much sense. But he starts a fight with these guys, and he gets the shit kicked out of him. And, of course, the delinquent kids who were backing him up this whole time while he was, puffing himself up to beat up this guy who's clearly a wrestler of some kind. I'm sure he had a brief pro wrestling career in real life, and that this was his foray into acting. I don't know who the actor is, but he's an enormous man, and he just savages this poor, wiry Jim Varney.
And the kids are like, "You suck, Ernest. I thought you were cool."
Yeah, they immediately turn on him.
Yeah.
Oh, what a pussy! Couldn't beat up that man who was like 3 times his weight.
Then Ernest sings, right? He sings his sad little song.
Oh, he sings us. This is where the movie becomes a musical inexplicably. He starts singing a song about how sad he is.
Sounded like a Randy Newman song to me.
Gee, I'm glad it's raining. There's always something to be thankful for. I'm awfully glad it's raining, 'cause no one sees your teardrops when it pours. And no one knows the thunder is your heartbreak in disguise. They think the rainy nights what put that sad look in your eyes. Sure, I'm glad it's raining. The gentle rhythm soothes the pain inside. I'm glad the stars aren't shining. A wounded warrior needs a place to hide. I thought I had found someone I could count on till the end. What they wanted was a hero. All I needed was a friend. Gee, I'm glad it's raining. I hope the morning sun won't come up soon. As long as it keeps raining, no one knows my heart broke right in two. I thought I had found someone I could count on till the end. What they wanted was a hero. All I needed was a friend. Sure, I'm glad it's raining. I'm awfully glad it's raining.
What else happens in this movie? Is all that's left the confrontation, the final confrontation?
Well, so after the song, that's when like everybody's left the camp except for the second chance kids, and they come up with a plan to stop the bad guys, and then like the dickhead brothers come back to help them out.
Yeah, the dickhead brothers inexplicably change sides.
Yeah,
even though so far we have seen them try to commit arson.
Yeah,
it's a very strange move that they become redeemed suddenly.
There's a pretty sweet 80s montage of them like getting ready, setting up the plan. They're like making arrows and shit to get ready to fight the bad guys.
The nurse tells them, "Hey, you can't do this. You're going to get murdered by these construction workers. You have to go back to the camp." Also, wouldn't the delinquent center also have like something to say about this? Like, "Hey, why haven't you brought back our kids yet? We heard that you're shutting down the camp."
They're just glad to be rid of them, I think.
They're just glad to be, they don't give a shit. But, like, instead of this nurse going and getting someone else in authority to, like, pick these kids up and take them away, she just gets, like, frustrated and walks away. Like, abandoning these kids to their fate. And that's something she does again. So then there's a montage, like you were saying, of them building a giant war machine. It's, like, built on a flatbed truck. It's got like a crow's nest and it's catapults, and they're building things with the help of Chief, what's his name? Chief Wintry?
Chief St. Cloud?
Yeah. Chief Keef helps them build all this stuff. And an automatic arrow launcher, which is like a bunch of crossbows, a thing that launches lanterns, like flaming lanterns. Am I missing anything from this horrible war machine they construct?
I think you got it all. Just the flaming arrows and the exploding lanterns are kind of the big ones that get used.
Yeah, that's the big stuff. And also the two cooks.
Yeah.
They decide to help out, but they're on their own, basically.
Don't they?
They're shooting.
Doesn't their food machine help them out in the fight as well?
Yeah, they shoot food at these guys.
Yep.
Which is not nearly as bad as a machine that shoots flaming arrows.
Yeah.
So they all get, ready to go to
The
war.
chief puts war paint on all of them as well.
Yeah, the chief puts war paint on these young boys so that they can go out and attack a legal construction operation.
They ain't gonna get this camp. That's what Ernest says.
Ernest says to the nurse shows up, "You can't do this." Very rightly so. She's being very rational in the scene. "You can't do this act of ecological terrorism. You're not allowed to do this. Ernest, you are clearly some degree of mentally handicapped. You should not be leading these children to their deaths. Please don't do this."
Yeah.
But instead of, walking away, and she talks to her father, too, the chief, but she only speaks to him in English and doesn't use her sign language, so it's like she doesn't want to talk to him. That's just something I noticed. I think it was just a mistake. But, she's talking to him. It's like, "You can't do this, father. They're just boys." And Ernest goes they're not going to take this camp. He repeats it several times. So they go to war with these guys in the construction crew, who, except for the guy who's the big buff wrestler guy, haven't really done anything wrong. They're just doing their job.
They just end up running from these explosions, trying not to die.
They shoot flaming arrows and basically pyro bombs at this camp, where there are all these boxes that say explosive and flammable and emergency barrels and all this stuff that's clearly going to explode, and does. I'd estimate probably 20 or 30 people were either killed or seriously maimed by fire in this movie. There are shots where you see people getting engulfed in fire. You don't see them look like it's not like a guy in one of those flame suits where they're actually on fire, but you see the fiery explosion overcoming them, and in real life that would kill them. It's a brutal fight. And they're aiming for these explosive devices. That's the thing. It's not like an accident that stuff is there. They are trying to commit murder.
Yeah.
They are terrorists. And like I said, his experience in Vietnam obviously helped him in fighting in the jungle and guerrilla warfare.
This is where I was really hoping for the switchblades to be used to, just how great it would have been if, one of the kids just pops out of the bushes, just, slashes a guy's Achilles tendon with a switchblade, just in the middle of all this.
Slits him across the throat.
Yeah.
Like Moose does that, Little Moose.
And then cut to another guy getting splattered with food, and still just a wacky.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, meanwhile, they're getting shot with food, which they run away with as much fear as they run away from the exploding lanterns full of
oh my god, it's eggs!
Oh no!
Didn't the eggs turn out to be explosive or something? The erroneous eggs is what they call them.
Eggs erroneous, which is a dish that it's set up earlier in the movie as a very disgusting dish that's made with clay, which makes me think it's somewhat like thermite or something. So they have this big fight and they're cheering, "We murdered everybody! We murdered everybody!" And it culminates in the big wrestler guy getting into a bulldozer and starting to run down stuff. He runs down a cabin.
Yeah, he smashes down 2 cabins, I think.
He chases the 2 guys with their food machine and destroys it to their dismay. And the kids realize, "Oh no, what are we going to do against this bulldozer?" And so they take this golf cart that was Ernest's, and they fill it with flammable and explosive things. And then Ernest, as the final thing, puts in the eggs erroneous, which has been revealed to be extremely explosive. And he suicide bombs this bulldozer. He gets in the golf cart, lights the thing, and then drives it into the bulldozer. He jumps out at the last second. It explodes, sets the bulldozer on fire. And if we did not see the wrestler guy come out charred, covered in, black soot like a cartoon, we would assume he is dead. Because that is how big this explosion is. It consumes this bulldozer.
And doesn't Ernest kind of like punch him once? Like once the guy's all weakened by this explosion, Ernest
this explosion, he gives him a real sock, and the guy falls over
I beat him.
I win.
I'm a hero.
Suicide bomb. Yay. It's at this point that the big bad guy, the CEO guy, shows up.
Well, first it cuts to him like up somewhere else, and the lawyer or somebody's like, the kids and their counselor are destroying all our stuff. And the guy like loads his rifle and goes, "It's like, not on my watch. I'm putting a stop to this."
Like rightfully so, says, "Hey, we can just pursue legal options here.
Yeah,
like, we own the land. We have every right to be there. Like, we'll just get the police to go stop them." And the guy's like, "No, that pussy shit." And he gets his sniper rifle out.
Yep, I'm going down there with my gun.
Goes along with him, like, I guess to like try and calm him down or something, because the lawyer's not really on board with wholesale murder of children. Like, I don't think they even mention that it's one of the counselors. I think he just says they're destroying it. Like, I think he's going to plan. His plan is to kill children.
They tell him it's the kids and their counselor that are doing it. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how they have that detailed in.
Yeah.
Already,
It seems like, and the boss man only wanted to kill Ernest, like, so that'll stop everybody if he kills the leader, I guess.
Yeah. If you cut off the head, the snake will die.
That's right.
So he drives in, he comes out, he's got his sniper rifle. Ernest turns around and sees this guy, and he starts freaking out, and he's like dancing around. He doesn't run away, he just runs back and forth in a small circle, like a panicked little chicken. And the guy has no hesitation about just shooting Ernest. Like, he just shoots at Ernest.
Yep.
He doesn't say, drop on the ground or anything. He just takes his sniper rifle, scopes on the guy's head, shoots him. And Ernest is fine. He's like, what? And then he looks at himself. He pats his beautiful vest.
We hear the echoing of the whatever it said in that first scene of the movie about the test.
He must be tested by... I'm not going to do... Oh, I shouldn't do that accent. He must be tested by the blade and the rock and the blade, the other blade, is what they say.
Yeah, it's the blade and the stone and the arrow. It's not called the bullet and the bullet test. It's a little different.
Yeah, so he stands still and lets the guy shoot him a second time, and then he lets him shoot him a third time, and then the guy comes up right into Ernest's face. Ernest does not run away at this point, not thinking, hey, this guy just missed.
Yeah, by the third shot, it's like he's aware that he's invincible, so he's just not scared anymore.
He realizes he's a god, and that he has the power of the brave. And he sticks his finger in the gun's barrel like it's a Looney Tune.
Yeah, I thought he was going to fire.
Basically, it is.
Yeah, I thought it was going to explode in his own face, like Bugs Bunny shit. Yeah.
But the guy just drops it, because he knows that this is the type of movie where that might happen.
Yep.
And then he just walks away, frustrated, leaving his gun behind.
He should have pulled it like Trinity, just put it right through his head, fucking dodge this, then pulled the trigger.
Yeah, that would have been pretty great. But he didn't dodge. He just, like, the guy's shitty at shooting stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, because we've seen early in the movie, he's shooting at bottles and he's killing them all. So
they established he has good aim, so it means that Ernest
is just immortal.
Yep. That must be it.
So, flash forward, and... Oh, no, not flash forward, because this happens right on the tail of this. The nurse lady comes back, and she's like, we just got a restraining order. We win.
Yeah, Crater's lawyer admitted that they tricked the chief. So they were able to get that thing back as well. It all worked out.
Yeah, so I don't think they know what a restraining order is.
Yeah.
Because they think it's a thing. Also, when I see her car and then two cop cars coming behind it, my assumption is the cops are here to stop these terrorists who've been blowing up, like, construction equipment on land they no longer own. Like, legally speaking, until that contract is completely dissolved, anything they do is, even if they weren't, I'm pretty sure causing explosions that big in the woods is probably also a crime, even if they owned the land, because it could start a fire, and they also could have murdered all those people. Like, it really doesn't seem like the cops should be cool with that, but nope, they're there to punish the evil CEO, who was a patriot. Let's admit it. The CEO was a patriot. He was trying to help the military and the space program by mining this precious petrosite, and really, I think he was the hero of the movie. He was willing to do what it takes to get things done and stop the Red Menace. Because this was before the wall came down, man. This is 1987. So, Cold War still kind of existed. Stopping those Ruskies.
That's right.
They're not going to get to Mars before us. We're going to use Petricite to get ourselves to the moon again.
Is Petricite a real thing?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I didn't bother looking it up. It sounds too fake.
Yeah, in my notes, I just wrote down unobtainium. Like I just thought it was a made up thing, so I didn't bother writing down the real name of it.
I just looked it up. No, it's just like a citation program. Someone's got a program called Petricite.
Yeah. So they also say at the end, like, we got the land back, and the kids don't have to go back to the institute. So do the kids just live at that camp now?
Yeah, I don't know. They say something about year-round.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is like, that's not a sustainable model. Are you going to have like a bunch of counselors there during the winter months?
They're going to live in that camp.
Kids can't really go outside. Like, they have to live in the cabins. Like, there's not much you can do, like, in the woods during winter unless you're, like, training kids to be soldiers, Like, you're in some, like, winter soldier program in Finland or something. Like, it doesn't make sense. They
gotta rebuild those cabins first, too.
Yeah, that's another thing. Are they gonna sue for that? I don't know. Like, anyway. Ernest gets to be a counselor for good, and he's still his charming self, and that's the end of the movie.
He falls off the ladder again. It's like the beginning.
Although he did tie off the ladder this time,
and then
gave himself way too much rope, so it just falls over anyway.
And the whole side falls on him, and
then the whole side falls on him. He doesn't die.
It's like poetry, because it rhymes with the beginning.
So I'm just looking at some of my notes, some things that we missed. So Ernest has a talking turtle that he talks to about. He's like talking about how sad he is and everything. And then the turtle bites him and he says, "You promised you'd stop." And then the turtle, later on in the movie, with his turtle buddies, they all talk. So
they only talk later in the movie, right? When the turtles...
They are paratroopers.
Yeah, they attack everybody. The turtles do. So the turtle biting Ernest's nose earlier was kind of setting up their attack skills for the end when they...
Watch these turtles at people.
Some of these turtles must have gotten blown up as well. During the big battle.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure they're going to build a memorial to everybody who died in this incursion. They're going to put a big wall that puts all the names of the turtles and maybe the construction workers too. Who cares? Like, we'll put them on there. They blow up trucks. I don't think I mentioned they actually blow up trucks. They blow up a lot of stuff. They launch a toilet during that assault. That's another thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They launch a dirty toilet at them and the toilet explodes. So, yeah, that's the movie. What'd you think of the movie on the whole? What's your review of Ernest Goes to Camp?
The first Ernest movie that I've ever seen. I mean, it was pretty entertaining. Like, it really, I think, picked up in the third act of the movie, when the big battle happens and all that craziness with them blowing all that shit up. Overall, it was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was weird. Like, I agree with you there that the ending was probably the best, even though I was talking about how insane and stupid it was. There was something very charming about them bordering on, like, just straight up murder.
And all of all the like things that they set up throughout the movie that just seem like dumb little things, like the eggs erroneous and the turtles and stuff. They all kind of played into the fight, the battle at the end as well.
Yeah, that's something I was thinking about while we were just discussing it, is that, like, it actually does set things up and then, like, use them, which is, like, a very basic screenwriting thing, but sadly a lot of movies don't do that. We watch a lot of bad movies together, and... Even
the fucking toilet that he launches at them was set up earlier in the movie. It was set
up in, like, the second scene in the entire movie. And, like, yeah, everything has a setup and a payoff. It's weird that it's that competent while being a movie about a commercial character. About a character from commercials where he shoots a flaming toilet at people.
So how does this movie since you've seen all of them, how does this one like stack up against the other Ernest movies? Is it one of the better ones, or like lower on the scale, or what?
Well, I'll say with the caveat that I haven't watched all the Ernest movies since I was probably like 12.
Okay.
But I did watch them all a shit ton when I was a kid. I think I liked Ernest Scared Stupid maybe the best, or maybe Ernest Saves Christmas. Those ones are overtly supernatural movies. There's also, man, Ernest Goes to School and Ernest Goes to Jail, which I also think are kind of pairings. Like they have like a connection there. I think this is actually one of my less favorite ones. Maybe because it's less insane than most of his movies. Like, it's more grounded in reality. He's just getting like beat up a lot, which happens in all the movies, but there's no wizardry. Ernest Scared Stupid is basically like a Ghoulies movie. Like, it's just with Ernest in it. There are literal monsters in that movie, and like a whole world of monsters. It's pretty great.
Okay.
And Ernest Saves Christmas involves him becoming Santa Claus, like Santa Claus in the Santa Claus.
That sounds good.
So, yeah, it's pretty good.
That's the next one, right? Ernest Saves Christmas.
Is it really?
Yeah, on IMDb it looks 1988 is Ernest Saves Christmas, so the year after this one.
Wow. That's crazy that they went that far so quickly. What's the order here? I gotta look this
two
up.
movies in, he's already saving Christmas.
Yeah. Ernest Film Festival, Ernest Goes to Splash Mountain, Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Goes to Jail. Ernest Goes to Jail might be my favorite just because it involves him having superpowers, which is pretty fun. But the Scared Stupid is also pretty good.
His only superpowers in this one were the ability to dodge bullets.
Yeah. No, he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to, just like Morpheus said.
Oh, of course.
So this leads us into a segment I want to call Ernest is Immortal. I don't know. We can call it something else. But
I like the simplicity of that title.
Ernest is Immortal. This is my theory, my personal pet theory about Ernest. So I'm going to list off a list of everything that hurts Ernest, and if you notice something that's missing, please remind me.
Okay.
First thing, he falls off the ladder. It's a pretty tall ladder. Probably would be pretty bruised, maybe even break a bone. But it's not nothing to fall off a tall ladder.
Yeah.
A giant pane of glass shatters on top of him. It's the pane of glass that's like wider than his arms, basically, and it shatters on top of him. He's hit in the face with a frying pan. A Coke machine falls on him. He deliberately provokes a family of rabid badgers and never receives any first aid. He slashes his hand open with a razor-sharp blade. He cooks his hand on a lantern that just recently re-entered the atmosphere after launching into space because he launched it. So it's re-entry temperatures. He's set on fire by his own horrible dirty soup machine. He's attacked by an army of fire ants, covered in poison ivy, bit on the nose by a turtle, savagely beaten by what I presume to be a wrestler of some sort, shot at 3 times by a sniper rifle, falls off a ladder again, and has a giant sign fall on him. Now, did I miss anything there?
I think you got everything. Yeah. He also ate some of those explosive eggs. Does that count?
Oh, that's true. And then he has to vomit them up. And those eggs did blow up a bulldozer, by the way. So that is that's pretty impressive. They also contain mostly inorganic materials, as far as I know.
Right. They were shoving all kinds of crazy shit into that machine.
Well, these are guys who think that it's a good idea to put pots into a machine that makes food. So that's yeah. So this is going to get crazier the more movies we go in, but Ernest might be immortal. Some secrets we learn about Ernest. He stole the Lindbergh baby. He's Joseph Mengele. At some point, Ernest has been to Tibet, and he enjoys the food there. He's a Vietnam vet. He once played poker with a group of roughnecks in the oil fields of Delacroix, and he is an immortal being, ageless and everlasting. So, those are just some interesting facts I've noticed about Ernest. So here's a segment I wanted to do. It's called The Life Lessons of Ernest P. Worrell. And this segment, we're gonna just discuss what we learned from Ernest in this movie. What guidance has Ernest given us in our day-to-day lives? Things that we can use in our own day-to-day lives. I'll go first since I made up the segment.
All right.
So what I learned is, as Ernest says, even a flounder takes sides. And what I think this means is fish swim in the water, but they have to pick a side of the water, and they can't just get swept along with the current. And so it shows that even a soft-bellied fish has to sometimes stand up for itself. I think that's profound.
Wow. That's very profound.
Yeah. So what'd you learn from Ernest?
Maybe less profound. I learned that when life fires bullets at you, just stand your ground, and the bullets will go around you.
Well, the important thing is you have to be of true heart. You have to have a true heart to survive that. That's what the legend says. And I guess he's just so true-hearted that he can get shot and the bullets just pass right around him. So just keep a pure heart.
Keep a pure heart. Keep a pure, true heart.
It seems like a weird story. Say you have to have a pure heart when it's about, like, murdering people. Anyway. Yeah. So just keep a pure heart and also go... So here's my thing about that, actually. Now I'm thinking about it.
I think for the next one I'll come up with a better lesson.
So this whole thing, this test of the brave, involves getting a hatchet and I think a rock and an arrow shot at you and not getting hit by any of them. And this is like initiating these young men into being adults and being warriors, presumably to go out and fight other people or, big animals or dragons or whatever. So my question is, like, when they're out in the world, if they stay pure of heart, do they just never get hit by arrows? Is that like the explanation in this community? Like, if you get hit by an arrow, well, I guess you just weren't pure heart. And if that's true, there's two possibilities. Either that's the case and Ernest is truly immortal just because he keeps such a pure heart, or it's just for this test. And if it's just for this test, that implies that Ernest has never had, like, a test of his manhood up to this point, even though he is a Vietnam veteran and a man of the world who's been to Tibet. He's never had his manhood initiated before, which I find curious. I don't know.
I can imagine him just bumbling his way through Vietnam. Just never getting hurt.
He's a real Gump.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of similarities between Gump and
Too bad they never did a crossover movie.
Yeah.
Ernest versus Gump.
Ernest versus Gump. Whoever wins, we lose.
Yep.
Well, they wanted to do that sequel to Forrest Gump where he causes 9/11 or whatever.
What?
No, wait. It was that he was gonna be involved in all this, like, 90s stuff, and then 9/11 happened, and they're like, "Oh, we can't do a Forrest Gump movie anymore because it's too." He would have to be involved in 9/11 somehow because his whole thing is he's involved in everything in history, and the biggest historical event that's happened in recent years has been this.
Or that would just give them an ending to the movie.
Yes.
Forrest gets onto a plane.
Oh my God! The whole movie. Okay, the whole movie is has the framing device just like in the first one, but this time he's talking to a woman on a plane. And
and at the end they reveal which plane it is.
At the end they show the terrorists getting up. Like, you see a lot of commotion and he's like, "What's going on?" And then they're like, Allahu Akbar, and they, take over the plane. And actually it cuts to black while that voiceover is happening, while they're yelling. And then the credits roll. But then, if they did a third movie, it could turn out that because Forrest Gump was on that plane, he stopped the terrorists, and only one of the towers fell. And that this is an alternate history universe caused by Forrest Gump's intervention.
He stabbed the terrorist in the throat with that feather.
Yeah.
Just pulled it out of his book. Stabbed him in the neck with it.
I don't think he would have been that brutal. I think it would have been an accident. He's like, oh, can't we all
You're
get
right.
along?
You want one of my chocolates? And he accidentally just trips and kills
Shoved
the
the
guy.
chocolate in the guy's eye so hard.
Yeah.
The nougat pierces his brain.
It's one of those triangle chocolates, you know?
Yeah. It's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know how to pilot because I was in Vietnam. Then he pilots the plane and lands on the river. Like Sully Sullenberger.
Yep.
And then now there's no Sully Sullenberger in this universe because everybody just thinks of Forrest Gump when they think of guys landing on the Hudson.
Either way, you're thinking of Tom Hanks.
Hey, that's true.
Yep.
Oh man, now I want to explore this universe of alternate history movies about Forrest. I mean, Forrest Gump's already an alternate history movie, but like one where he actually changes the course of history instead of just causing it to happen as we know it.
One where he's a time traveler and he goes back and meets into all these important events in history and actually changes them.
Well, I think the first thing he would try to do is to make sure his girlfriend didn't get AIDS. Like, he wouldn't care about anything else. Like, that would probably be
Right.
the first thing he cares about.
I mean, if you got a time machine, you could do that anytime.
Yeah, but you don't want to put it off too long, because what if your time machine breaks and you didn't do that one thing?
Oh, that's true.
And you're like, ah, shit. You gotta have
Should have
priorities.
cured AIDS first.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how he solves it. He doesn't like, stop her from, sharing a needle or whatever.
He goes deep into the future to get the cure for AIDS first.
Yeah. Oh, man, Idiot with a Time Machine. That sounds like a really good movie. A guy just bumbling around, fucking up history, not on purpose, just because he doesn't understand time travel and, like, the butterfly effect. And meanwhile, there are all these, like, time cops trying to chase after him and stop him. And he's not trying to avoid him. He doesn't understand that they're chasing him. Okay, well, Time Idiot is the new movie that we're going to make. Is there any other segments that we had? Do you have any theories about Ernest? Like, Ernest, you already shared your Ernest is Wolverine theory.
Yeah, I think that's my only one that I came up with for this movie.
Yeah.
I did have a question though, because you mentioned earlier there was one reference to Vern in this movie. I don't think we ever got to that.
Oh, thanks for bringing it up again. Okay. Well, at one point, Ernest talks about he tells a story, one of those campfire urban legend stories, and he talks about like the hook on the hand, and the person in the story that it happens to is named Vernon. So that's the Vern reference. That's the sly little Vern reference. Vern never appears on screen in any of the movies, but he's frequently, well, if you've seen any of the commercials, it's usually shown from first person from Vern's perspective, and Ernest is getting in Vern's face in the camera. And in the scenes in these movies where Vern does show up, it's done from that perspective. It shows the camera's point of view. The camera is Vern, and he's talking directly to the camera and bothering the camera.
It's like we the audience are Vern.
We are Vern.
We are all Vern.
I don't know if... So is Vern Ernest's best friend? I don't know that. I don't know... Because Ernest's role in the world changes just as Ernest's does. So I don't know where he... This is a mystery we'll be unpacking throughout this series.
I'll be looking for these clues to the mystery of Vern throughout this series.
You'll be getting your yarn. You'll be sticking pins in the wall.
I've got a whole Vern board up over here that I connect all the clues together.
There's a big question mark on a face shape.
Yep.
Well, I think structurally this movie is pretty good. There's a lot of plot holes in terms of like stuff not making sense, but it's more contrived than like it's not badly structured. It's just that the things that happen are stupid and easily contradicted. Like the whole law thing, everything to do with the land deal doesn't make sense. But it makes sense in motivation. So I think structurally this movie is pretty good. It sets up desires. Ernest's desire is to be a camp counselor. He gets to achieve it through hard work and like struggling for it. The kids, they want to not go back to being in delinquent school. Somehow they get that. I don't understand. Are they adopted by the camp? Don't they have to go to school at some point? Is the camp going to stay open all year round?
Is there any like continuity between these movies, or like each time is it just like the previous ones didn't happen?
like to believe that they all do take place in one timeline, and it's just that Ernest has a very varied life.
So after, like, the next one, when he saves Christmas, he's not ever like, oh, let me tell you about the time I was at a summer camp.
Yeah. I don't remember offhand. I don't remember if there's ever an indication. I seem to remember Ernest Rides Again might actually be a sequel to this.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. I feel like Ernest Rides Again was in some way related to the... No, I was wrong. I was wrong about that. Sorry.
All right.
But I think I like to think they are part of the same continuity. It's just that his life changes. He just moves. He's a roamer. He's the wandering Jew. He goes from place to place, immortal, just interacting with people and learning life lessons. And
so he just abandoned all these kids after the events of this movie to move on to become Santa Claus.
It wasn't malicious. I think he just got distracted. I think that's what happens to Ernest.
Yeah.
He gets distracted, and he just sort of wanders off, and he ends up someplace else, and he forgets that he was ever anyplace else. So I've already talked about my theory about he's like a Highlander, he's an immortal. I think it's very similar. I think it's pretty clear that he is immortal in some way.
It sure seems that way, yeah. There's plenty to support that in this movie alone.
Yeah, we're going to see some stuff. We're going to see some shit, man. All right, I think that's good. Unless there's any is there anything else that you wanted to talk about Ernest-wise?
Just, it's for being new to the Ernest world, I enjoyed this first movie, and I'm looking forward to the next one.
Ernest Saves Christmas. So we'll watch that.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun one. I used to watch Ernest Saves Christmas every Christmas with my parents. They love that movie. It was a tradition, and I'm looking forward to revisiting it and having my memories of it ruined. So, I guess that's it for the first episode of the Importance of Being Worrell, a Jim Varney Memorial Podcast. I've been Josef Schwem. Oh, before we go, I guess, is there anything you want to plug?
Oh, sure. You can follow me on Twitter at Atlin, and also my podcast is called Commentary Track Baby. You can find it on iTunes or wherever. You figure it out.
You figure it out, asshole.
That's my slogan.
My Twitter is Josef Schwem. That's JOSEF SCHWEM, as in Mark. And that's about it. I don't really do much. I've been Josef. This has been Ed Atlin. And this has been The Importance of Being Worrell. And we'll see you next week. Or whenever.
Peace out.
Next time. Bye.
Bye.